It is time to welcome back a show favorite, a fan favorite, Savannah Hernandez, Frontlines reporter, Turning Point contributor. First of all, thanks for getting the memo. Producer Glenn sends out a wardrobe suggestion every day, and clearly we've decided to match effectively for today. So,
We're
Sav, how
we're
you
we're
doing?
we're rocking the Dwayne the Rock Johnson, when he has
Mm,
this like fanny pack. That's
yes,
the look we went for today. So I hope everybody's enjoying it.
Uncle the Rock, as I call him, because we're Samoan and probably related somehow if you go back far enough. Sav, so you don't know what we're talking about because it's a Friday. I decided to have a little bit of fun because, well, I don't know, everybody likes Sav and wants to hear from her and wants to know more about her. So I did this fun thing. I went to Grok, Elon Musk's X platform's AI, and said, what would be some good interview questions for Savanah Hernandez? And lo and behold, it knew exactly who you were and actually spit out some interesting questions that I actually would like your take on. First of all, it started with this bio. Savanah Hernandez, often stylized as Sav or Savannah with one N, is an independent journalist and political commentator known for her fearless frontline reporting on protests, rallies, and controversial events, often aligning with conservative perspectives and emphasizing truth seeking. So, first of all, how do you like that as an AI bio for you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, AI does a better job of hyping me than I do. Be right back. I'm gonna go update my entire bio and just ask AI to hype me up here. I kind of
hmm
hate how good AI is in the modern day, but also thanks, Grok. I'll take it.
Well, it continues and says her background includes journalism degree from New Mexico State University. Skeptical about that. Not a big fan of New Mexico State specifically, but
Fair,
we'll
fair.
let that slide. Experience with outlets like Infowars and appearances on Fox News and Newsmax. So it knows the whole thing about you, which is either very cool or very scary. So there's that. This is actually interesting. I am curious to know this too. I'm going to read verbatim from Grok here in asking Savannah some questions. Frontline reporting also often includes unpredictable, dangerous, and ethical tightropes. Can you describe a time where you had to balance your personal safety, and we've talked about this quite a bit in the last couple days, and the want and need to capture the full story?
Okay, very professional question that I wasn't ready for. Thanks, Grok. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's every single time I go outside at this point, and
Yeah.
we've kind of talked about that extensively about how left wingers are now looking at my press badge and viewing the name Turning Point USA and coming after me for it. Whereas that was really never an issue for me before. I feel like the left wing has gone crazy and absolutely insane, as we have all seen. So I want to say, like, every single time I go outside at this point and I wear a press badge, because obviously I want to show people that I'm pressed right away.
Of course.
And then once people are curious as to who I'm pressed for, they then go a little bit insane. I think we saw this best during the No Kings protest, which was the last time I was in New York. This was a couple weeks back. You had people come up to me and tell me that I was a token brown person, and Charlie Kirk only hired me because of my skin tone,
Mm.
because he found out I worked for Turning Point USA. So, it's always an interesting balance. And I was actually talking to one of my friends about this last night because I was like, look, there is a fine line between journalism and activism. And I do very much like, I still love the United States of America. This is still my country. And I'm focused on highlighting the issues that do impact me. So, how do I kind of differentiate the personal and then and also the
Totally.
story? And I think the easiest way to do that is by simply being there and neutrally recording what I'm seeing on the ground and letting people decide for themselves, which is what I've always done. And then when the crazies come up to me, I'm like, okay, this wasn't me. I was standing here doing nothing. This is on y'all. So that's the differentiation there.
That's super interesting and good to know. I'm going to characterize this question and not ask the professional state by state. But the another question that spit up, and I'm actually curious about this, and I'm sure our audience is curious about this. How do you decide where to go and what to cover? Because there is a certain amount of you got to be in the right place at the right time. You somehow have a knack for consistently being in the right place and in the right time. How do you do that?
Honestly, I just feel like God has guided me to this
Mm,
profession. And so he helps me out a lot with that. But also, it's a combination between just I feel like what, some would say luck or blessings. The other thing would be just me following the news cycle and basically going the opposite direction of the entire media. So, for example, and I would have
Interesting.
loved to have been on the ground for it this week, and I just wasn't. But Dearborn, Michigan, there was a protest going on there. I kind of highlighted that to our team. We did have somebody on the ground for that. The coverage was great. Or the North Carolina ICE raids that are currently happening right now. I want to say that Fox News was really the only on the ground big platform that I saw that's been on the ground and location there. I have my own mission that I'm on for Frontlines this week, so I couldn't be at either of those locations, but typically that's where I would be, just the opposite of where the media is and what the media is focused in on. Never let them know your next move, my friends. All right, that's the mantra, that's the vibe.
Well, so because it, I mean, again, peek behind the curtain here. There's like a process where you got to like be able to convey, hey, I think this is happening here, and there has to be a lot of trust on your hunches and your gut, effectively, because that's what people are. That's what the approval process kind of necessitates, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, Turning Point's been great because they have given me a lot of trust. And also, I always say this that my platform belongs to the American people. And they are oftentimes giving me a lot of leads and a lot of kind of tips on what they want to see covered. And whatever I cover that the American people are interested in usually goes very viral because, again, the American people are interested in it as
Yeah.
opposed to me or, like the mainstream media tries to do, force feeding people a narrative that they're not really interested in.
So on that line, again, another grok question that I thought was pretty interesting. It basically, and I'm characterizing it here, is asking how you find the balance between your personal feelings towards somebody in power and what the story is, and asking them about that question. We've had conversations. I'll let you tell us about it because we've had conversations about Savannah's relationship with actual people who have actual power and or lack thereof. But you want to elaborate on that because I think that's interesting.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that is, again, one of the balancing acts of journalism. One of my main rules is like, don't be friends with
I
politicians. And I feel like, it's hard to be though, especially if you're in DC, like Anna Paulina Luna. I love Anna Paulina Luna. And I think that when I do really like somebody, I try to be very honest about that because unlike the media, and this is why people hate the media because they try to pretend like, oh, we're unbiased, but also Donald Trump is a Nazi. And, factually, everybody hates him. I don't hate him. Factually, the entire nation does though. And maybe you should too. Like that's the entire media. And that's why people hate them. And so I just try to be really honest. I try to not be friends and buddy with people that are in politics. And I try to be really neutral, like even with people who I do like sometimes I feel like I criticize the Trump administration, for example, more because I like them and because I want them to do better and be the
Mm,
best. So it's like, okay, what do we need to focus on criticizing, right? Because if something is going well, like absolutely, we're going to talk about it, we're going to celebrate it. But also, it's like, I'm not here to be a hype man. I'm here to, really highlight and focus in on what the American people are focused in on. So oftentimes it's like, okay, let's take a peek at what needs to be critiqued, what needs to be
yeah.
done better, and what the American people again are focused in on.
Well, and that was one of the first things. I'm glad you said it because I was like, I don't know if this is like a public thing that she talks about, but one of the first things you told me is like, I'm not friends with politicians, and I feel like that is super admirable. I also have felt that sort of sensibility kind of creep into how I don't want to give too many specifics on this detail, but there was a person that I knew pretty well that was with a person that is actually in an elected position. And for some reason, I don't know if it was like the Sav mode kicked in, but I said hi to the person I knew, and like I don't think I was rude, but I didn't say hi to the person.
You're like,
in
I gotta
office.
go. I gotta go.
We had, and I do. I feel like that sense of responsibility, and I wouldn't even call myself a journalist, really. I kind of just am a commentator on social and cultural and political things, and so I'm not even getting like the hard scoop on anything. But I don't know. I like feel that, and I think that's super important, especially in the day and age of like genuineness and being able to trust people with their opinions. So I very much respect that in all that you do. Anything that you think would be fun for the audience to know about your line of work that we haven't already touched on? If not, that's totally fine. I'm just curious, broadly speaking, you're like, by the way, this is how this works, and nobody knows that's how it works. Again, if you don't have that ready and prepared, I know I'm throwing this on you. Feel free to feel like we can move on to the video section. But I don't know, you just open floor.
Sure. I think that a lot of people probably think I put a lot of prep work into my videos, and for a lot of them, I do. For some of the reports, I do like to be really well researched, so I do put
Totally.
a lot of time and effort onto that. Like oftentimes, when I am reporting, everything that I'm talking about is off the top of my head, the statistics, the facts, the
Yeah.
timeline regarding like the immigration crisis in New York, for example. Other times, I really do just stumble upon a story, and that has been some of the biggest stories that I've covered. For example, when I caught Jackson Hewitt offering $14,000 tax refunds to illegal immigrants in New York, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I was outside of Roosevelt Hotel, which was one of the largest migrant hotels in New York City at the time. And I was kind of just walking around, observing, using my communication skills to go and talk to people and see what was going on the scene. I'm just a curious person, Joe Bob. And I think that's how I found some of my best stories. They weren't planned. It was simply me being out on the streets of
Yeah.
America and going and seeing what average Americans are living through. And I think that's why a lot of my stories resonate with people, because it truly is what the average New Yorker, the average, Angelino, the average Texan is living through every single day. And it kind of goes unnoticed by them, right? Because it's normalized. I have a lot of friends who
Mm.
live in New York, and I will actually, this might have even been you, Joe Bob. I was in California and I was filming this crazy guy screaming on the street. I don't know if it was you or one of my other friends in California,
It
and they
wasn't
were
me
like,
screaming on the street, if that's what you're asking. I wasn't. I can confirm that it
not
wasn't
that
me.
time. Not that time. But no, it was just kind of like I never would have thought to film that because I live in California and I see this so often. I see crackheads screaming at little kids so often that
Mm.
it's normal to me and I would never think to film it, but you are, and then it goes super viral. So I think as well, it's just like, a new set of eyes. And this is like San Francisco, for example. The reason why my footage went so viral with that is because I was like, I'm sorry, is it not weird to anybody else that people are out here with needles hanging out of their arm as children walk past? Is it normal for you guys to feel like your streets are a haunted house and every single street is scarier than the next as you're walking down? Like, am I crazy, or is that just normal for you guys? And so I think that's what it is. It's like having a fresh pair of eyes. And yeah, like that's some behind the scenes that a lot of people might not
No,
know is, yeah, I'm just walking
I
the
love
street.
that. That's super interesting because yeah, I think in certain very deep blue enclaves, a lot of that stuff unfortunately is normalized and people forget, "Oh, hey, this is crazy." The fact that we see
Yeah.
people shooting up on public transportation is freaking crazy. And I like that, a fresh perspective on eyes.